Hey there, welcome to our first
Yes, the 2018.
Cambridge
Yay.
InsideOut program of the year 2018.
And it's only the second, so it's really catching on to the first of the year.
Yeah, we're getting a good jump on things here.
Yes.
So we missed last week for
right. Obvious reasons. People were busy being cold.
Yeah. Well, we're really busy being cold now.
Yeah. Right. That's true, but it started last week.
Soon to be really snowy, I hear, on Thursday.
Oh, now they're upping it to 8 to 12. Have you heard that?
Oh.
First it was 1 to 5, then it was 4 to 8. Now I'm hoping they're all wrong.
I could do without it.
Yeah. Anyway, so
I guess the main event, the big event of the last day or so, was that we had an election. I suppose you all know. Last year we elected councilors and school committee members, and yesterday was inauguration day
for the city council in the morning, and then
school committee at 6 o'clock in the evening. Yeah, and it's all set in state law, chapter 43 of and that they have to meet in the first Monday of the.
It's our plan. It's our chart. Our particular.
Yeah, it's under state law. So it's funny because it's New Year's Day. People think it's a holiday, but they were actually swearing in city councilors in cities all over the Commonwealth.
Right, but also today they were too. So I don't know if some are different.
Maybe
did not do what I heard.
Maybe it depends on what charter you operate under.
Exactly, that's it.
Cities and towns may be different as well.
Right.
For example. But anyway, starting at 10 o'clock, and I looked at my watch. And it was exactly 10 o'clock. Donna Lopez, city clerk.
Good.
She's good. Started the meeting, and actually this was the little program.
Yes.
Everybody got a program for it,
Yeah.
And it's a well orchestrated affair.
And it was very well attended given the temperature and everything.
Yeah, I actually thought maybe the attendance would be down because it was like 0 degrees out or something like that, right? But it was great, and they. After the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we had the first of 2 musical sections from Deputy Superintendent of Cambridge Police, Pauline Carter-Wells, who's really one of my favorites.
Yes, I like
and the usuals. It's always interesting they do these things like, would you please present your credentials, and you have to go through this thing as if, as if you've never met the folks.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the way it's supposed to be done, right? Yeah. And all the councilors, the newly elected councilors, all the councilors they have their own ushers they get brought in with. They announce their ushers.
They pick, right? It's either their family members.
Typically family members, but not necessarily, right? Yeah. And then they one after another. They actually do the triple oath for.
Yeah, I was interested. One is for the city. One is for the state. One is for the council.
I was talking to somebody about this. The cities and towns in Massachusetts exist. Basically at the not at the pleasure, but they are basically chartered from the state. So you can't just
in the country.
So you can't just sort of say, well, we've decided to be a city. No, you have to petition the legislature to be a town or a city.
So then you have a constitution that's related to.
It references the Commonwealth.
Right.
So when they raise their hand and do the oath, first you swear your loyalty and etc. to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Then to the city.
Yeah.
And then to the country.
And all under God.
It was all under God.
No separation of church and state here. Everywhere.
But it's really this is a choice that each elected official can make.
Oh.
So all 9 of them said, so help me God, right?
Yeah.
School committee later on.
Oh, they're curious.
It's different. There were.
It is?
Yeah, I think there were 3 who just did the standard,
really?
under God. There were 2 who did the under the pains and penalties of perjury, without reference to God, and then Lawrence Kimbrough made neither reference to God nor pains and penalties of perjury.
Interesting. So at least 3 of them.
Yeah, so they're all sort of customized versions of
But that's interesting that it did not on the city council.
I think it's just happens to be who the 9 individuals are, and it has varied over time. Well,
I kind of respect that. I wish I had been there because it's always bothered me on a national level or whatever.
Yeah, no, but it's
I know people say, "Oh, it's just something you say," but it isn't.
No, I agree. But then again, if you look at the inscription right in City Hall when you walk in, it's drenched in religious references.
No kidding, and Mike Pence might be our president someday. So there you go. Christian nation.
Right. So after they do the oaths of office, and they go through all 9 of them, right? Then they do the sort of what is oftentimes dramatic and suspenseful, which is the election of the mayor. Right? Now, for those of us who've been around a while, the mayor is, at least I view it primarily as just the chair of the city council, who happens to also chair the school committee. It's not like you run the city, you're really still one of the.
You do have more responsibilities. It's kind of ceremonial. You're called upon by media sometimes.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You are paid more.
Right.
And you get an assistant, or you get a special staff.
Historically, the mayor's office always had a few staff people, but even before city councilors started getting some of their own.
Right.
So yeah, there were some advantages, and some would argue that being mayor gave you a little bit of a bump in the future election because of the high-profile nature of the job. As long as so in other words, if you were mayor, you could, they used to that used to be where they did the input for the mayor's summer youth programs.
Oh, okay.
So you could be the one who was basically helping people out, getting in.
Oh, no, it's definitely faces out front there,
Yeah, I think it has not always proven to be the big bump in the subsequent municipal election, though Denise Simmons certainly topped the ticket this time, so I guess you could argue that it did.
And she did well even the last time.
She did, yeah. That's why I say I don't think it was that much of a factor. I don't think it is.
I just think it's a nice thing to have, even if it's for 2 years.
It's a good honor. It's a great honor. So anyway, some of us knew for the last almost a month that it was going to be Marc McGovern that was going to be mayor, but we have kind of a social protocol that even if
Well, I didn't know there's an inaugural committee. They announced who was on it. So what do? Do they have something to do
I think
with
they
that?
make arrangements
There's
for
Alana, Tim Toomey.
It's really just for the ceremony, just to make,
is it?
make
Okay.
arrangements. So
All
it's
right.
really some of the
Nothing to
staff
do
people.
with selection of. Okay.
Oh no.
Well, that makes sense.
The election of a mayor is done quite one-on-one, maybe two-on-one. I know there was in some years in the past where there were aspiring mayors would actually, one person who I shall not name would actually rented a hotel room and had
receiving line?
a receiving line for people to sit at.
So it's not always decided that first meeting,
no,
right?
it's not. And in fact, but the thing is that it usually is. I mean, over the years.
Remember the Henrietta Davis?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that there have been some years where it was very contentious.
Wait, was she ever mayor?
Yes.
Oh, so she should get a portrait soon, yes?
She has a portrait.
Oh, where is it?
It's in the Sullivan Chamber. It's as soon as you walk in the door, it's right there on the right. Yeah. Well, it's a relatively recent addition.
Okay, I'll have to look for it. Yeah.
But so anyway, there have been some years where the selection of the mayor goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Wow.
Many ballots. I think the record was like 1,000+ ballots.
Oh, come on. That sounds like a very not united
I think it was in 1945.
Right.
I could have the year wrong.
All right. That's sad.
And it was started getting ridiculous. Where there's really a wonderful write-up in the Harvard Crimson week after week about the hijinks.
What was the issue? People really didn't like each other?
They couldn't get to 5. I think there were multiple people, at least 3 people. If you only have 2.
You just need 5? I thought you needed
you need 5.
6. Oh,
No, you just need 5.
Majority.
And if you have only 2 people seeking it, then it's going to get selected. It's going to be decided.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
But the thing is, if you have more than 3, and I think back in the famous one of I think it was 1945. I should know this cold, but I forgot.
Wow.
That would. That one, well.
It was all men, right?
It was all men then. I think it was not until.
When did the woman named Cornelia
Pearl Wise was, I think, the first person who was first
library.
in the modern era of the planning chart of the first woman, I think, on the city council. But so it was filled with hijinks, and it went on for over 1,000 ballots. And I think the way they were almost to the point where the legislature was going to, state legislature was going to intervene. So maybe out of some sense of embarrassment, and the other thing too is back then there were certain things where you required licenses and permits where they had to be signed off by the mayor. So until the mayor was selected, it couldn't be done. So some of the actual business of the city was just stalled.
And have they changed those rules?
Some, yeah.
I think after a certain number, it should be decided by somebody else.
Yeah, but I think it's important to emphasize because there's some bloggy kind of people like to emphasize difficulty in electing a mayor. But the truth is usually it's pretty easy and it's set and fast.
Yeah.
And it usually happens right on day one, and it might not happen on the first ballot. You may have to do one and
it's
then.
It's interesting. Why isn't it a
again.
Secret ballot?
It's in the state law.
Oh, it
that
has to be open ballot. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good that it isn't, but.
Yeah, and you know, so there, you know, I remember Anthony Galluccio was elected mayor was that the year 2000, I believe. Could have been 2 years earlier, but that didn't happen until the wee hours of the night of February 14th.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like 2:30 in the morning. They finally settled it. Yeah.
So I guess it's a good sign that there's no contention here.
I think it's a good sign. I think it's, you know, there's the one bad aspect of having a kind of a contested mayoral job, or not just contested, but something where there's some hijinks going on.
Because it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It's the first order of business, and
exactly.
It sets a tone. And that's the bad part about it, right? But on the other hand, it is the body that gets to choose their chair, and some people have advocated to have a directly elected mayor. In which case the city council would be stuck with a chair they may not even like.
True.
So I actually think it works out better this way.
Yeah.
You know, some people have reasonable disagreements with that. So anyway, in the end, it ended up being an 8-1 vote. I think the original vote, you know, was 7-1. 7-2,
right.
And then I think Denise.
She wanted a unanimous.
Moved to make it unanimous, but didn't quite get unanimous.
Didn't do that,
right.
so she.
Right. So anyway, 8-1. Doesn't matter. I mean,
she switched her vote then.
Yeah.
Did she switch her vote?
Yeah. There's this wonderful ritual where the vote's not. Each ballot is not decided until the gavel is struck, right? And that closes the ballot, right? But the thing is, you can do changes or corrections, whatever, and then if you don't get, nobody gets 5, you move on to the next ballot.
Right.
And
right. And
you know,
Donna Lopez always said, "Is there anybody that?" I mean,
are there any changes and corrections, right? And then the signal that somebody, you know, it's sort of like the equivalent of the white smoke coming up from the Vatican.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Is the striking of the gavel 3 times.
Right. Very ritual.
So that's when it was done. But as I said, I think a lot of the people in the room knew the outcome.
Yeah, well, I knew because you told me.
So it was just a formality.
So it was Marc, and then the next then was the vice chair, which was not as predictable.
Yeah, actually, I think some of us, including me, didn't really even think about that because I mean, the vice chair is sort of it's an honor, but fundamentally, vice chair is just a city councilor, right? I think. Until relatively recently, the vice chair.
The mayor is just a city councilor too.
Except that the mayor makes all the committee appointments and gets the chair.
Good point. They have power.
Automatically.
And I don't think vice mayor gets any more money, right?
Nope. No. And they didn't even get additional staff or anything like that until maybe about 17 years ago or something like that.
What, vice mayor?
The vice mayor, yeah.
They have additional staff besides the personal assistant?
No, this is before there were personal assistants.
Before they were, right, but now they're, okay.
One vice mayor got his own assistant, and which actually caused other city councilors to say, well, why is that happening? And then that's kind of what led to, arguably, to the new regime where everybody gets their own.
I still don't like it, but hey.
Well, you know, that's something that I think the city council is going to have to grapple with. I mean,
what do they do?
It varies a lot.
I mean, they can do a lot, or they can just, I don't know.
When
they should be working together more. I know you've said that, and I'd like to see that.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do, yeah. But when the idea was first floated, which is now early 2000s, right? It was originally a proposal to have what they called research assistants, and the notion was that if you were chairing committees, they would assist you, whatever. But pretty much right off the bat, they weren't acting as research assistants, they were acting as personal assistants. So eventually...
They're a lot less money than they make now.
Yeah, but the Government Operations Committee eventually acknowledged it and said, okay, fine, let's stop calling them research assistants if that's not what they are. They just call them personal aides, city council aides.
Okay.
But I've always felt that, you know, yes, city council and city councilors need staff. And there are people in the city council office, and that used to be adequate for years.
Right. But now it's gotten
Yeah, but maybe do you need more? But I never quite bought into the notion that everybody should have their own personal.
Yeah, it's a little too much personal fiefdoms.
And you know, when you're seeing what I've seen happen over the years is that it's almost automatic that city councilor simply hires or asks to have hired
people that help work on their campaign.
The campaign managers become the city council aides, and you might say, well, that's a person who I know and trust. So I guess there's an argument you can make there. But
and that's what happens on the federal level.
Right, but orchestrating a political campaign is not quite the same as assisting in legislative research or putting together legislation.
Well, it depends on what you do for a campaign. If you're trying to get your candidate to say they're supporting this and that, you better be doing something. But you're right. I mean, it varies.
Well, those councilors who, including the newly elected ones, who want to portray themselves as sort of progressive, good government kind of people, I think owe it to the voters to actually at least have a conversation about the appropriate role of staff or city councilors that best serves the people.
Well, to me, it seems like, especially when a lot of councilors have full-time jobs, that they're going to rely on their personal to kind of keep there is almost a liaison to the city council because theoretically that's all they're doing, the personal aides, unless they also have full-time jobs.
It is worth pointing out.
Maybe they do.
When the city council aides first arrived, it was at a time when more than two of them were looking at a higher office and basically wanted somebody there sort of to manage affairs while they were out campaigning. I know that's okay. I'm not going to say that's absolutely true.
But I never thought about it. That I guess a person aide could have another job too. Maybe they don't think they get paid enough.
The way city councilors, the position is described, was originally conceived. It was never viewed as a full-time job. And
so then I guess they could have just like the city councilors.
Many of the city councilors have. I think actually Jason Alvis worked for Tim Toomey as a city councilor, but also with the state legislature. Oh. So he did technically have two jobs.
Okay, but
he was
for
partially
the same
paid
candidate,
out of. Though. He used to simultaneously was paid out of the committee to elect Tim Toomey on the one job as well as.
That seems very confusing to me. But
I think it's worthy of a conversation at the very least, if not some changes.
It is.
And there are some other changes happening with city council staff anyway. Sandy Albano,
who that was a big
worked for the city for 47 years.
So who gets to hire the city manager? Replaces her?
Yes, technically the manager.
Does it have to go through any hearings, or is it more just an employee?
No.
That's good.
So that's really under the purview of the city manager.
You think it'll be internal?
I don't know, but the thing is that it's one of those things where the manager, being a wise person, is not going to just arbitrarily put somebody in there that the councilors aren't comfortable with. So
a good point, because they work directly.
So it'll have to be something that's done mutually. But my understanding is that they'll have people within the city who's going to sort of temporarily work in there and fill in that job, and then they'll have to have a conversation. They'll come up with some good solution. I just hope that they sort of look at the whole picture, not just let's replace Sandy, but do everything else exactly the same. By the way, on the way over here. Today was Sandra Albano, originally Sandra Moretti.
As we found out yesterday.
Today was her last work day, and actually on the way here to do the show, because 5 o'clock was closing time at City Hall, I dropped by City Hall, and gave her a good send off. She'll actually come back and help with some event planning for the mayor's office or whatever in the future. So it's not like we're going to see the last of it, but anyway, it's a big deal, and it was a lot of acknowledgement of Sandy's role.
47 years is quite.
Originally it was with the Cambridge Hospital. And then she moved over at Al Vellucci's request to the city council office in, I believe, 1982, maybe January 82. So it's a long time now, right? Yeah. So anyway, big transitions to be sure. So anyway, so that was the inaugural. Oh yeah, we should mention two other things. One was the other musical selection from
which I'm so happy it was what she did 2 years ago.
So it was Pauline Carter Wells again sang beautifully, flawlessly John Lennon's Imagine, and choked me up 2 years ago, choked me up this year again.
I wonder if people really understood it.
I think it's great.
It was a nice counterbalance to all the the other stuff.
Definitely, and then then they closed it down, and some of us went on down to the big shindig at the Senesta Hotel afterwards, which was
not everybody. You had to have an invite, but you always get invited. So
guess I'm official.
You're an official. You show up, people aren't going to question it.
But it was great. There were a lot of the political people who
Yeah.
were sort of affiliated with some of the
How many,
candidates, and
as
city
many
officials as
people that
well.
you saw there were there, or was it less?
Probably comparable.
Really?
I think most people who were at the inaugural, I think, ended up
Oh.
there. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it was great.
Next time I'll go, even if I'm not
Right.
invited. All right.
Yeah. And food was good. Food was
Always.
good. Yeah.
Sure.
And then later in the day was the inaugural of the school
So
committee.
where was that? Where does that?
They
go
did
down?
that at the Fitzgerald auditorium.
Oh, right. Okay.
In CRLS.
Sure.
High school.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
You
And
know,
how many people attended that? 'Cause-
not nearly as
Yeah,
many. It was
it
sort
was
of a
cold,
cold
yeah,
night.
yeah.
You know, it's not as sort of a high profile event as in
Yeah.
there.
And yet it sounds very exciting from what you told me.
Right. Right. But
Yeah.
they have like musical performances by some of the kids, like
Oh,
third
good.
graders, whatever.
Oh,
You know,
third
and
graders.
you know, it's kind of a little more amateurish. People make mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
They do things out of sequence. They go, "Oh, I
Okay.
forgot this, forgot that."
Huh.
You know, it's not nearly as tightly orchestrated, but they do the same ritual of Donna Lopez, city clerk, is
So I was
there.
going to say, so she has to do that also.
Yep. So she
Oh.
swears them in. They again have to do the triple
Wait, is
oath.
she at every school committee meeting too?
No.
Who does the
No.
minutes for that?
There is the secretary of the school committee.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so it's
Right.
at within their own staff? I mean, is
Um,
it staff or is it one of the school committee people?
Staff.
Oh, okay.
It's staff.
Okay.
Yeah. And so anyway, so that's so that did they swore them the six in, and Marc McGovern is there. You know, his
Right.
first job, actual part of the job.
Right.
You are mayor now. You have to actually chair that meeting. And they have to then make just as the mayor makes the appointments to all of the city council subcommittees,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll have to wait and see if
Oh,
it's the
right.
same subcommittees because
True.
the
They might change that really long one.
the subcommittees are actually, I hope they will because I'm tired of writing it, but they restructured them 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they are those changes are then part of the city council rules. So what they did is they did provisional adoption of the rules.
Yeah, that was interesting. I thought that was smart.
Right.
Yeah.
And but subject to possible revision.
Right.
And so it's
That
possible
could be
that
revised. Yeah.
they could restructure some of the council committees.
Mhm.
I actually think it's a good idea to do that periodically for
Sure.
a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
You want your council committees to be responsive to the times. You know,
Right.
what are the important things to focus on?
Especially when there's a turnover like we've had. 3 new
Yeah.
people. And,
Yeah. Now I don't know who's going to be chair. You know, it's not as easy as you might think when you've got 3 new people about just choosing who's going to be chair of some of the
Yeah.
key committees. Like who should be now chair of finance? Well, it was Marc McGovern for the longest while.
Oh, right.
He's not going to be chairing
So
it.
mayor
as
cannot
mayor.
chair other subcommittees because he's already chairing.
You know, the mayor could appoint him or herself as chair of a committee. That's absolutely true.
Oh, go back to school committee. Who the vice chair?
All right, so the vice chair
Yeah.
is a member of the school committee who's elected and was elected last night. It was Kathleen
Same
Kelly.
ballot type thing too.
They do it pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
Initially, there were 2 votes. I think it was. I guess I wrote it down. It was 2 for Monica Bowman, 2 for
Oh yeah,
Patty
you have it in
Nolan,
your notes somewhere.
2 for Kathleen Kelly,
Emily Dixon.
which then became I think it became 4 because Patty Nolan, who had been nominated by Emily Dexter, then voted for Kathleen Kelly.
Right.
So there were 4, and then there was some vote switchings, and I think in the end, in the end it was Kathleen Kelly who was selected, and so Kathleen will be the person who will, to whatever degree the school committee wants to have subcommittees. There have been times when they chose not to have subcommittees.
Huh.
Even going back into the 1920s, there
Wow.
have been times where they just existed only as a committee of the whole. Right, but if they do, then it'll be that responsibility.
Well, obviously, ordinance committee is very important.
For the city council.
Exactly. I'm talking about city
Yeah,
council now.
yeah. So, and there's been a bit of a tradition with the city council to have ordinance committee have 2 co-chairs. And if you actually look at the workload of the last council
Oh,
term,
Tremendous.
the ordinance committee met, I think, something like 48 times.
They met more than any other.
I think
they
if you
hearings,
added up
yeah, right.
all of the other committees combined,
It
they
wouldn't
may
equal
not.
that. That's
it-
true.
They may. It's certainly on the same order of
Yeah,
magnitude
it's good
as
that
the
it's
one
co-chairs. I
committee.
think they should continue that.
You know, there's another reason. I think ordinance, when you especially talk about zoning,
Yeah.
it seems to me that the
Yeah.
best way to do that these days is to have 2 co-chairs who are of somewhat different philosophies.
Yes.
because if it's just one person, there's this perception that this one person is trying to railroad through their agenda, and zoning, for better or worse, ends up being sort of one of the big policy things
it affects where people live,
does.
what happens around them.
Right.
So you think Dennis Carlone will continue?
I think he would want to be, but the thing is, Leland Chung is no longer on the city council, so who would replace him?
I bet it's.
I think that wouldn't be a balanced ordinance committee.
Okay, because
I actually think it would be a good idea to, take a good look at one of the new people.
Well, that's what I just did.
Yeah. If they're interested, I don't know what their interests are. The mayor basically puts out a request. The councilors say, "Well, I'd like to be on this committee.
Someone would be good,
I'd really like to chair."
Now that I think about it.
Yeah,
she's
actually.
got a legal background, and she's got a difference from Carlone. But I'd like to see Carlone because he's really one of the. Well, I guess Quentin knows a lot about zoning and stuff like that.
I don't know about zoning,
but he knows about development. Carlone. I mean, he's been an architect.
No, I think he's sort of a natural
buildings.
for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Not that all ordinances are about buildings, but a lot of them are.
Right.
Because we have plastic bag ordinance too.
Right. So anyway, so that's that's settled, and we'll
Interesting.
The mayor now, Marc McGovern, will make some appointments. Those appointments may be.
When did that usually get done?
It's usually at least 2 weeks, sometimes longer.
Because the first meeting will be next Monday. Yes.
Yeah, Marc is already really getting ahead of the game and organizing the mayor's office. He tapped Will Durbin, who's been on this program,
really
as chief of staff.
And that was Craig Kelly's.
I was thrilled to see
Will.
Luis Vasquez, who was once a city councilman. He's been on this program.
Candidate, not a city council.
That's right. He was a candidate, so he'll actually be doing outreach and working with constituent services.
Who was
and
the person before?
Both phenomenal
choices.
Manny was an immigrant liaison.
Oh, different. Okay.
I don't know whether Manny will have a role in this, but he'll
So
certainly be a player.
Is this a new position, Luis Vasquez position?
It may be just a revised version of a position that's existed.
Right.
So anyway,
all right, we'll be back.
Back in a second.
Okay.